When I lay my head at night, I see back then, and I regret and neglected. But when you dissociate, you lose lessons and blessings. Learn from mistakes. And if you look around, then you see you're not alone. Cause she might get you, and she might let you, and we might get to tell the world this is her story. This is her story. Episode of hashtag her story with Clivia. Tonight we are going to be joined, or today, whatever time of day you're watching this recording, we are just so happy that we have the pleasure of meeting and speaking with Charity. Met her through my cousin, actually referred her, and I haven't heard her entire story. So I have a couple of bullet points, but nothing too crazy. But we are going to welcome her to the stage without any further ado. Put your hands together, or put your hands together. Welcome Charity to the stage. Thank you so much, Charity, for joining me this evening. How are you?
Amazing. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to meet you. You have such a great energy. How are you
Aw,
today?
I'm doing good. Tired, but I am
Oh,
just excited
today
to
drained
even,
me.
yeah, to be here with you. So I'm going to give you the stage. Tell the people who you are, share a little about yourself, and then I'll come back on and we're going to do some Q&A and have a little fun.
Okay, awesome. So I told myself I was going to work on this elevator pitch, so bear with me. But
Take your
my
time.
name is Charity. My name is Charity King. I think I guess I'm kind of multifaceted. So I've been dibbling and dabbling in quite a few different things, trying to really find my purpose here on earth. I'm a realtor. I was in the Army for 9 years. I'm currently working with State Farm, hence how I met her cousin. We kind of amazing women. They're just so amazing. I've tried acting. I've really been just trying to see what is right for me. I have quite a story, so that's kind of why I'm here is to kind of get my story out there. I do eventually later down the road want to start a show for myself as well, and just kind of be in the with like-minded people and to just really help the world heal is really where my mind is at the time. I know that that's a part of my mission here on earth, and we so desperately need it. And I feel like the reason I've been through so much, I'm 33 years old. I've been through quite a few different things, as we all have, but I feel like a lot of mine was front loaded so that I'm able to connect with people and have empathy and be able to help them out of everything they've been in. So,
Right.
yeah, was
Wow.
married, divorced, got a daughter,
Okay.
beautiful daughter. Yeah, so we'll get into
Awesome.
it, I'm sure, more.
We definitely will. So taking notes as we're
Okay, no worries.
um, I started doing this in 20, I'm gonna say late 2021, early 2022, and it was supposed to really be a documentary. Really, just I had this vision of women, just sharing our untold stories that, and I say it all the time, we feel like it's ordinary. Oh, yeah, it's just something I've been through. That's it. But
Mhm.
then one person might hear that story and it might change their world. You
That's
said
it.
you were front loaded with these things. You're only 33, but to
Mhm.
understand, I just told somebody yesterday, we go through things and sometimes, why me? Why am I
Mhm.
going through this? But it's really not for us. It's to really help someone else. You talk about basically
It
saving the
is.
world, helping those that just feel like they're alone. But when we speak up and share our truth, and our experiences, we definitely can reach just one. For me, it's just reach one,
That's
and
all.
that's
Yeah.
all we need. Yeah. So let's talk about you'll learn more about me. And sometimes I share a little and sometimes I share a lot. And even starting this, I said in 2021, but in 2020 during the pandemic, I was interviewing other people. You mentioned acting, and I'm glad you mentioned that. We're going to talk about that. I also work with
Okay.
a production company in Georgia,
Mhm.
and always casting, so we'll talk about that off scene. I said off scene, offset. And
Yeah.
this young lady, I interviewed her for a newsletter the production company was doing. And she's out in Florida, didn't know her from anywhere. Come to find out, she was also an author, talk show host, all these different things. And she wanted to interview me. And I'm like, interview me. And that was my
Right.
first time. She then ended up talking about relationships. I
Hmm.
was married for 7 years, divorced in 2017. So I was still kind of, I would say, fresh out of it, a
Hmm.
couple of years single again. And there were people that didn't know my story. They didn't know that I was divorced. They probably thought I was just
Hmm.
married and not maybe talking about it, or I was embarrassed and just different things, just didn't
No
share
one
that
wants to
part of
fail.
my
Yeah.
story. Right. And that was my first time really talking about it. And that was like a burden lifted. I was like, oh my gosh, that kind of felt
Instantly.
good.
Yeah.
Yes. And I didn't know what to expect because I just didn't know, number one, that she would have went that route of relationship. Because we were talking business, but then that happened. And then someone else that I knew, she wanted to interview me and same thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I should maybe share my story more because this feels
Hmm.
good. And then someone reached out to me and said, I've been married for 20 plus years. Not to say I encouraged her to get a divorce, but she
Right.
understood certain things. Like some of us as women, we stay in something that we're unhappy with, we're not satisfied with, or we do it for the children's sake. But if we're not
Hmm.
happy, then we can't be the best version of ourselves for our children and for ourselves and for our marriage. So I want you to share a little on that experience. We'll start off with, I don't know what came first, whether it was military or marriage. So let us
Okay.
know like how all of that fell into place and why you are
Okay.
not married anymore.
Okay, definitely. So I guess I just a little background on my upbringing. Like I have a lot of abandonment issues. I wasn't did I lose her? I'm gonna just keep rolling. So I wasn't raised by my I don't want to go and then have to repeat it. One moment, I think I lost you. By my mom. She was addicted to crack cocaine. My dad did end up default raising me and my sister. He did the best he could do, but he also was an alcoholic. So he was kind of not as stable as he could have been, but loved them both. And it just kind of bouncing around house to house and always feeling like I had to make myself small so I wouldn't bother anybody because I felt like a bother to everyone because it was like, oh, can you get the girls? It was me and my one of my closest sisters of age. She's close to me in age. So I always felt like a bother. So I would make myself small. So just that little background to just say that I never really learned how to date. I've always just looked for a feel good moment and I would just run with it. So when I met my ex-husband, we were in the military and we were at a duty station. I began drinking. I joined the military in 2011. I went to Korea. It was amazing, but I definitely will say it added to my alcoholism because it was just drinking, partying the whole time. And as soon as I was done with Korea, I went to Fort Campbell. No, I'm sorry, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and it was just a kind of the same scene. The military is an amazing place. It's a great stepping stool, but when you leave from home and straight out of high school, you leave from home and then you're out on your own, it's just like a big like college, and you're getting paid. So we were just drinking every weekend, partying every weekend, and I met him and he was fine. I've also I love some eye candy, but I never really got to know people. I would just fall in love with the image of them and I would be like, oh, he's cute, blah, blah, blah. Let me just be with him. So when we met each other first, it was through mutual friends. We were at a single soldiers retreat where they took us out into like I think it was Branson, Missouri, really nice area, and we went out drinking and stuff like that. And I was currently talking to another guy, and this guy was just so up and down, round and round, always with a new girl. So I was just kind of on his roster. So I was kind of leaving him alone. And then I met my ex-husband. I don't think I really want to say his name, but we'll call him Bob. I met Bob, and we seen each other kind of across the room, and he was fine. He still is to this day. I'll give that man that. He's fine. We made a beautiful child. And we connected and we kind of made out in the club drunkenly. And then after that, we kind of just got into not really getting to know each other, but just spending a lot of time together. So we were always together. We were watching movies. Desperate Housewives, I think, was the first thing that we watched together. And it was just fast paced. It was really fast paced. Then we got to a point where in the military, if you're a higher enlisted, you're not supposed to date lower. So we were both specialists, which is lower enlisted. Then I ranked up and I became a sergeant. And I'm a big rules person. I'm always reading regulations and rules and trying to follow them. So I told him, like, we're either going to have to, what the regulation says, either get married and within a year or call it quits. And in my mind, I mentioned that to him because I'm like, let's stick to the rules. I don't want to get in trouble. We have been dating on and off for about 2 years. And to be honest, we should have looked at all the red flags collectively. Like, we were arguing, we would get drunk, we would break up, be back together. It was never just a smooth selling relationship. So we should have kind of took heed to that, but we didn't. We were young, we were in love. In lust, I think more than love it was. And basically, we ended up deciding we're going to get married. I also got orders to leave to go to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. So I was leaving within, I think it was like 6 months. So I'm super busybody. So I'm sitting here trying to plan our ceremony because we didn't really want to do a big wedding. But I was like, I want to remember this. I want pictures. I want a white dress. So I went ahead and was getting all that planned, and simultaneously I was getting my stuff together to PCS to a new duty station. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh shoot, I missed my window for depot. I was on depot birth control, and you have to go within a certain time frame to get your booster shot, or you anyway. So I went to the doctor. I went and got it, and they were like, well, you missed your window, so we need to test you for pregnancy. And they tested me and they were like, oh, congratulations, you're pregnant. And I just was like, oh shit, like, this is too much.
Charity, let me tell you, I'm going to stop you. I'm listening to you and I'm like, this is me right now.
Yes.
And I love that you are being so transparent because that's what I'm about. I remember being married. And I look back now and I'm like, maybe it wasn't love, maybe it was lust. We didn't know each other. We met January, and it's okay not to say his name, so we will call him Bob. I'm okay with, protecting ourselves, but met January of what year did we meet? 2009, right? Met him in the church. He wasn't a church boy. I was a church girl all my life.
Yeah.
And long story short, he proposed December of 2009. And I was in a relationship before for 3 years. Great relationship. It was during our college years, and we just thought we would have gotten married. We didn't. Things happened. And I wasn't looking for a new relationship. Now, talking to friends, they're like, yeah, he was definitely a rebound, referring to my ex-husband. He was a rebound, but I didn't see it that way. I just saw it as, okay, new guy, we're both
vulnerable too, most likely.
Right. And proposed December 2009. I wanted to do things the right way. We got married June of 2010. Had my son. Fast forward to 3 years. And I'm just sharing this because I'm listening to you and I'm like, okay, all right. And that's why I said we're not alone on this journey called life, at all. So I got on the depot. So I definitely understand what the depot, in regards to making sure you have the shot. And things were rocky. And I'm like, even when I had my son, I said, I feel like a single parent, and got on the depot. Things started to kind of look better. And I remember it was summer 2013. Went on a cruise, and I decided to get off the depot because I'm like, okay, things are looking good now. We could probably try for a second. And we tried. Nothing. Nope. I was still on the depot. When we got back, I said, okay, let's say September. I'm going to get off of it. And I got off, but things were rocky. And I'm like, okay, just be careful, November, I had a follow-up appointment to get back on it. And just as and I'll let you continue, but November, I had an appointment to get back on the depot, and she's like,
Mhm.
you're pregnant. And I'm like, hmm. And
Yeah.
it
It
was
seems
sad
like
for
it
me
makes
because
you more
not
susceptible.
yeah, we were not in a good place. So for me, I questioned it like, how? Actually, no. I conceived in November, and then January, when I was just feeling sick all the time. And that's when I found out I was
Mhm.
already like pregnant. But if I had kept that appointment, maybe moved it up a little earlier, I would have been fine. But I
Yeah.
had conceived right when I was going to start back on it. So you can continue. Just it just blows
Yeah.
my mind. Yeah.
No, that's
It blows
crazy. Align everything aligns, like, this is was meant to happen.
yeah,
These
for sure.
conversations.
Yes.
Yeah. It seems like once you miss your window, you're more prone to getting pregnant. But okay. So, and I skipped a step. We had got married on Wednesday. We did a ceremony and we went out for drinks with our friends after and everything. Oh, we still good?
We're good.
Okay. And we went out for drinks on Wednesday. I went to get the depot shot on Friday, and they were like, "No, you're pregnant." So I'm like, "Oh, this little drunk baby." But I was still kind of high off of that. Oh, I'm married now. I'm a married woman. Like, this is fine. Like, I'm gonna, go with this pregnancy because I'm married. So then shortly after that, I ended up PCSing to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and he stayed in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And my pregnancy was amazing. Like, I'm kind of scared to get pregnant again because, they say they're never the same. Amazing pregnancy, amazing delivery. Like, I was still vibrant, I was still going, I had no issues. I'm so grateful for that. But I did it all alone. I did it all alone. I would call him all the time. And I'm really not a big phone person anyway, so long distance relationships for me are no. I like to be in person, and that's really how I connect. I hate texting and I hate calling, so I don't know. But I would try and I would call him and he'll be like, "Oh, I'm out with the boys, I'm hanging out." So it kind of made me resent him a little bit because it's like I'm over here with your child and it's like all you care about is partying. But I also was like, I am a little older than him. I think he was I'm probably gonna get the ages wrong. We were like 3 or 4 years apart. But so I was understanding, but at the same time, this is my first pregnancy. But I went ahead and let all that go because I was talking to her in my belly. I was like, "You are not coming until your dad gets here." And I feel like he finally got orders to come be with me in Fort Bragg. We went to go do maternity pictures at the beach in Myrtle Beach. And literally, I lost like my plug that weekend. And then she came like a few days later. Like, she literally waited for her dad to get there. So I felt it was all aligned. I was like, "This is perfect. This is amazing." So, we kind of just, continue with life. I was building a home. I'm such a Susie homemaker, but I also, on top of that, I was working in the military as well. He's a great dad. I will never take that from him. I think he loves her tremendously and he's there for her now as much as he can be. But as far as a husband, I think we just did not get to know each other. I felt like I have a big energy and I felt like he was attracted to that. But then when we got married, I felt like he wanted to dim my light because he didn't want nobody else to get that, if that makes a bit of sense. But it was a lot. It was just like,
It makes sense because I
yeah,
understand. I
draining.
definitely understand. It's like, and again, I just had this conversation yesterday where, I totally understand that not getting to know someone. And for me, it's like when we first got married, we were living with his mom, stepdad, siblings. So
Mhm.
when we finally went out on our own, I felt like I was with a stranger because he worked nights. I was, home in the day. So it was this opposite schedule. And then he changed his schedule, which I'm like, you didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
We could have kept it like, but I learned him and I didn't like him. I'm like, you mentioned looks in the beginning. Sometimes we
Mhm.
go after that, but I'm
Yeah.
like, you have become so unattractive for me. And I was very
Yes.
blunt with things, and
Yeah.
being very independent, I think that was intimidating for him,
Mhm.
So I totally understand where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, have a strong woman, but no one else can have her. So I'm going to dim her light. Or,
Yes.
for him, I think it also was, okay, I was never introduced with my name. My name wasn't known when we went into a room. It was my wife,
Mm, yeah,
as if like this trophy,
that's right.
but it wasn't. We weren't aligned. I love that word that you're using. We weren't aligned at
Mhm.
all. So I had to come back on for sure.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how I felt. Yeah, and I think it was just I didn't take the time to really get to know who he was as a person. I didn't really ask questions about his relationship with his mother. That's why those uncomfortable conversations, as much comfortable, uncomfortable, like you need to talk about everything. Like, why do you wear the drawers you wear? Like, I need to know everything because it was so many steps I missed just wanting to feel wanted and to have love because I believe in love still to this day. I have so many more stories outside of this, but I believe in love so wholeheartedly that it was just like this. I was in the season of this is my time. I'm married. I love him. He loves me. Like I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna make it work. And I think a very pivotal moment in our marriage. So prior to this as well, like I mentioned, I started drinking a lot in Korea, and I take full responsibility. Like I was slowly but surely becoming a drunk, and that's not easy to deal with, and that's not fair for me to ever sit here and say all of the wrong he did without taking accountability. I was a hot mess.com. I would black out instantly. But when we were in Fort Leonard, Missouri, there was a moment where I was, because right before I left Korea, just a little more backstory, started dating this guy and he was ugly. I ain't gonna lie, but I was attracted to his intelligence and he cheated on me. And it was just a moment of like, sir. So anyway, I was vulnerable coming to Fort Leonard, Missouri, where I met Bob. And I guess one weekend I went out drinking, and I guess I slept with someone or someone slept with me. I didn't know. Um, don't remember at all, but I kept remembering this guy named Brandon. He would always smile at me at work, and it was kind of getting uncomfortable because I'm like, he's such a weirdo. And then there was a party. I got drunk again. I was at one of my homegirls' barracks room, and I fell asleep. And they later told me that he kept coming into the room trying to wake me up, and he was mad that I was asleep. So anyway, they all went out, and when they came back, I kind of sobered up because I slept the whole club night away. And it was him and my platoon sergeant, which is not supposed to be happening because you're not supposed to mix and mingle fraternization basically. So my platoon sergeant should have never been there, but he was there and I was like, oh, he's cool or whatever. So him and Brandon were standing in front of a refrigerator and I was like, excuse me, can I get some water? Like I'm trying to get in the fridge. And Brandon looked at me and said, he said the F word, but I'm gonna try to keep it PG. He was like, you know, I effed you. And I was just like, and I'm still a little tipsy, but I'm sobering up really quickly. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He was like, you know, I effed you. And I just like got hysterical. I started crying. I was like, no, like it was all coming full circle. Like, this is why you've been looking at me that way every day at work. I was just like, what are you talking about? And he was married. So now I'm feeling convicted. I just started yelling. I was very emotional. And my platoon sergeant took him outside. They went down into his car and talked for a little bit. And I was just getting my stuff. I told the girls, like, I'm leaving. I'm going home. And the barracks were set up like really nice apartments actually. So I lived like right around the corner. So I was just gonna walk home and just leave everybody that night. And I started to walk, and Brandon rolls his window down, and he's like, that didn't happen. I'm not telling the truth." And in my head, I'm like, "Who lies about something like that?" And I was just like, "You're just an effed up person." And he was like, "That never happened. I'm telling the story, blah blah blah." And mind you, him and my platoon sergeant were talking. My platoon sergeant told him to tell me that to drop the case. So then I start walking home, and my platoon sergeant then is like, "Oh, let me take you home." And in my head, I'm like, whatever. I'm still trusting him because he's leadership. He takes me home, and I'm sober at this point. We go to my place, and he starts to walk me upstairs. And I'm thinking, okay, he's just making sure I'm getting in there. We get to the door. He kind of just lets himself in a sense. And I'm just still in this moment of like trying to decompress and make sense of what just happened. So I pour wine, and he starts showing me like music and stuff like that. And we actually didn't sleep together or anything, but we fell asleep. And the next morning, his girlfriend was banging on my door, like, and I'm new to the military, new to this unit, new to this state. Like, I'm just new. And she comes knocking on the door, like, I'm going to tell and we'll get in trouble for that. So it was just a whole stressful moment. And after that, me and him actually, like, he told me he broke up with her a couple weeks later. And then me and him, because of my vulnerable state, I was just like kind of letting whatever happen. I was taking whatever came from me. I had no discernment. I felt like I had no choice half the time. I just wanted to feel protected. And in some twisted way, I felt like he was protecting me, but he was a vulture, just as any of them. And so that's a whole nother story. But fast forward. So we all kind of ran in the same groups. Brandon, my ex-husband Bob, and then a couple other guys. And a pivotal moment in our marriage was we went to one of their close friends' wedding, and Brandon had moved to North Carolina too, and we didn't know anybody there. So he was like, we can just put him on something called our family care plan, where if me and him deployed, Brandon would take care of our daughter. And me trying to be a good wife and just still not really registering whatever happened to me with that person, I was just like, cool. If we ever deploy, I was going to change my mind, of course, and send her with my sister or something. But it was just paperwork. But he would come over every now and again. And it was uncomfortable for me because I've told him this story about, I don't know what happened to me, and this person may have raped me. And I never felt protected because he was just like young, dumb, and like, oh, this is my friend. So I'm just trying to be a good wife. And I'm like, cool, whatever, he can come hang, blah, blah, blah. So we go to this wedding of a mutual friend of theirs. And the guys go out, I kind of stayed my space away from him, but the guys go out for the bachelor party. And me and Brandon's girlfriend, beautiful girl, just amazing. We're just kind of kicking it, and I put my baby to sleep, and we're having drinks and eating snacks and stuff. And she just looked at me and was like, girl, I did not think that I would like you. And I'm like, why would you like me? Like, I'm awesome. And she was like, because Brandon told me he effed you. And when I tell you, I boo-hooed so hard because it made it real. Like, that really happened to me. I don't remember it. And I was still convicted because I feel like when I drink, I do get a little promiscuous. So I was blaming myself, but then I was like, why would he lie about it? Like, so many feelings came back rushing to me. And I ended up 100% blaming Bob, my ex-husband, because where was your protection from me, your wife? I should have never been around him. You should have believed me. You should have trusted me. Like, it was a whole argument the whole drive home, and I still forgave. I never forgot, but I forgave, and we moved on. Never really any other conversation about it, anything. Just like, let's just keep this marriage going. And
Now,
that for
question,
me
how long was that in regards to how many years of marriage was that already? Like, how deep were you guys in?
my baby was about, I want to say like 2. So I want to say we were about 4 years into the relationship, maybe 2 years into the marriage, because we got married. Yeah, my math is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah.
So yeah, definitely. I definitely agree in regards to where was his protection,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that you're good. So even that, it comes with being mature. And we sometimes are with these men, although you are older,
Mm-hmm.
a man should want to protect his wife
By all
or,
means.
his life partner or
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want to call it. So definitely I feel that. So,
Yeah.
tell me in regards to how did that, I guess, things after one after the next just continue to happen?
Yeah. And then also on top of it, I am a traditional woman, I guess to say, but I've also always had to take care of myself. So I have
Hmm.
a problem with asking.
Right.
And I feel like majority of the men, not all, but if you don't ask, they won't do. And if you don't
Yes.
allow them to. So I was also already paying all the bills, doing all
Right.
majority of the house work. He was coming home playing his game. I was taking care of the baby. I bought literally everything. So
Right.
it was like, that was the first, like those first few years. I'm like, what is marriage? Like, I feel like a single woman still. Like, I don't understand. Single parent, everything. And then after that big blowout, there were quite a few things that happened. I really need to sit down one of these days because I also feel like some of my trauma and things, my mind's way of protecting me is to admit things. So a lot of stories are
Right.
choppy.
Mhm.
But it came to a point where I just got to begging him to just do better, be here, like verbalizing, like, this is what I
Yeah.
need from you.
Yeah.
And it just carried on, him only caring about himself. He was very materialistic, so that's all he would care about. He would play his game. Excuse me. And then at one point he told me that he resented me because I was older and I went to Korea. So he felt like I got to live life and have a party life. So he started
Mm.
going out with his soldiers and hanging out in the barracks. I even pulled up at
Yeah.
the barracks one day and just sat there to see what he was doing. Ended up fighting a girl because she just was being disrespectful and came to my face, and I told her,
Mhm.
get out my face. Like it was a lot of just things that just should not have happened. And I started drinking more and more and more because that was my coping way. That's what I've learned
Right.
from my family. Like
Right.
they never displayed any healthy ways to
Deal
cope
with
with what we went through. And I
anything.
actually
Yeah.
learned this from Bianca because I used to say my alcoholism and my addictive personality was hereditary. And she said, nothing's really hereditary because it made sense. It skipped my sister. She's not an alcoholic, but I was.
Right.
So it's those habits that I learned that
Yeah.
created that alcoholism.
Habits. Yeah.
And then there came a point where I actually did, it was towards the end of the marriage, maybe on year, I say 5. I was tired of begging and asking.
Mhm.
I had asked for divorce somewhere in that.
Okay.
He promised a full 180. And I ended up cheating. And
Okay.
it was actually with the girl I was experimenting.
Okay.
And he found out because I'm not a liar, honestly. I
Right.
don't
You
hide my
transparent.
phone. And yeah, like I'm very
Right.
transparent. So I just one day he was following my location and started reading my messages, like everything.
Mhm.
And he
Yeah.
found out I came clean. Um, then, we moved to another duty station thinking that it would make things better, but we moved to one of the toughest military stations, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where all they care about is like training, training, training. And it
Okay.
just made things worse on top of what we were going through. And at some point, I actually started drinking so much, and I didn't want to die, but I didn't want
Mhm.
to wake up. I was so
Right.
stressed. It was the one time in my life then, because I'm a little more selfish now in the good ways. But then
Mhm.
that was the only time I was ever selfish. Like
Okay.
I didn't think about my daughter. I didn't think
I
about
was
him.
gonna ask you that. In regards to
Yeah.
when you're in these situations or cycles, how do you deal with being a mom? How do you hand her off to your sister, or does
No, I
he
had no
step in?
one.
Or okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I've always been really good at making small communities everywhere I go because I'm a people's
Okay.
person and I'm super
Yeah.
helpful. So I'm always helping women, and that opens them up to help me as well.
Right.
But it was a time where he was deployed or in training somewhere. He was not
Mhm.
far, but he wasn't home for like almost 3 months, I feel like it was. And I
Okay.
was just stressed out. Work was
Yeah.
stressing me out. Being alone was stressing me out. We had got another kitten that was stressing me out. It
Okay.
was just a really bad time. I had stepped into a new career, and it was actually really harder than I thought it would be. So it was
Okay.
still military, but I became a career counselor. So it was just
Okay.
a lot of stress built on a lot of things. And I just got to a point where I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to
Mhm.
be here. I never really thought
Right.
like, oh, I want to die. It was just, I don't want to wake up. I want
Yeah.
to go to sleep and not wake up. And I ended up taking, because they had prescribed me a while back for depression. They
Okay.
love to give them prescriptions out. And I
Mhm.
ended up taking, I don't even know how many it was. I took a bunch of them. I had made sure my daughter was asleep first.
Okay.
And then I was laying in bed, and I just was like, I popped a bunch of them. And then I guess the next day came, and they realized I didn't show up to work. And I
Mm.
woke up from the military police and my supervisors in my room, like trying to wake me up. And
Mhm.
then it ended up taking me to the hospital to kind of detox. And I ended up
Right.
after that going into the mental hospital. And I
Okay.
stayed there initially just for the detox portion of it. But
Okay.
I ended up in total staying 42 days.
Oh,
And because I
wow.
signed up for a 28-day alcohol recovery program, because I was like, well,
Okay.
that wasn't like me. Let me try to fix
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And it was terrible because I'm a very clean person, but at that time, like the depression I was going through, the new kitten, the house got a mess. And all I
Right.
kept thinking in my head was he's gonna come home because he loves to like take pictures. He would send my sister stuff and try to make
Mm.
me a terrible person.
Yes.
So in
Yeah.
my mind, I was like, he's gonna take pictures, take me to court, say this is how I live, and take my daughter.
Right.
So I had asked my stepmom, like, hey, could you go down and just clean it up before he gets home and get my
Okay.
baby too? Because she ended up being able to go with a neighbor that we were
Okay.
pretty close with. So she was taken
Right.
care of. He actually called and threatened her that if she came to that house, he would call the police on her, which the house that I paid the the rent for. So it's like,
Right.
it was, and I had paid for her to get her tires fixed to come, like just shelling out money to just
Yeah.
make things right.
Yeah.
I had no contact with him at that time. They made us go under no contact, and I had no wishes to talk to him. But we had a mutual friend who would bring Symphony because that's all I wanted was to see my daughter on the times that I could. And when she came, she was like, "He's out here telling people you have men coming to visit you." Like, and I said, "In a mental hospital? Like,
Okay.
look at me. Like,
Right.
like just making up so many stories, and it was just terrible. He wrote me so many letters. I didn't really read them. I wasn't open to hearing anything from him. And then when I finally got out, inevitably we ended up back at the house together. He had cleaned the house up, and he had bought me a bicycle. And it's crazy because a couple years prior to that, I was like, "Oh, I want to buy a bike." And he said, "You're never going to ride it. Why would you buy it?" And I was just like, "I guess you're right." So I get out the hospital. There's this beautiful blue bike, which I still have, and I'm about to move and get rid of it because I've been getting rid of everything from my marriage. Like, that's a whole nother story. I was like, I don't know what energy this stuff has, but it can go.
We'll do part 2 on that.
Yeah. But, and it had a note on there that said, "I never wanted to dim your light." And that was one of the sweetest gestures he ever did.
Right.
It was too late.
Yeah.
It was too late.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple more instances. We tried, so I asked for a divorce in total 3 times. The first time I asked, he promised to change, and he changed for a little bit, went right back to his ways. The second time, in my mind, I was like, "Let me stay. Like, I have a daughter with this man. I want to have a full home. I need to try for her." And then the third time, I left for myself. I was like, "I'm done. I'm choosing me." And I've been divorced now at almost 3 years that we've been divorced. So a lot of other little stories in there.
Yeah. Girl, you got to write a book. I don't know if you're thinking about it, but I also publish books. So
yeah, I definitely would love to. I was like, I don't know which way to go first, the podcast show, because I don't know how many people read, but there's a lot of things that need to be put out.
I mean, even with your podcast, you could even think about just doing it as an audiobook because people listen on the go, and as much as people sit and read, there's people that really enjoy just listening. And I think even sharing your story verbally is a beautiful thing. I published a book in December, and I had a friend of mine, she's an actress, she does voiceover, and I asked her to do it because I just love her voice. I'm like, I could have done it. It would have been more personable, but that is definitely something you should consider.
Yeah, let me know too. I want to check yours out as well.
Thank you. So question for you, how did you get into real estate?
So yeah, that was kind of, so when I got out, I got a divorce. I also simultaneously got out the military. I was studying for HR, and I was working at Target, and it made me realize I don't want to deal with HR and adults. So then I tried the acting for a little bit. I worked at 2 bars. And I just kind of was like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? And then I went to a Black Millionaires conference here in Atlanta. And I paid, it was a free conference, but I paid the $100 for VIP. And when I tell you I was in the front stage, just locked in. And I heard all these different ways of how to become a millionaire.
Yeah.
And it was the one that piqued my interest the most was real estate. And I had also been studying, like watching a lot of different YouTubes about millionaires. And it always says that majority of the time have 2 things: a routine that they swear by, and a lot of them invest in real estate. So, and I had already taken the test, and I failed it by 8 points, but as a veteran, I get 10 points. And
look at you.
I was sitting on it because I was like, I'm not taking that test again. And I had sent it off to get the points added. And that's a quick 2-week turnaround. It took 4 months for them to add my 10 points.
Really?
I sent so many emails. A lot of people got fired after that because I think they were working from home and they weren't doing what they're supposed to.
Right.
But went to the conference, and I met a guy who he approached me at the conference and was like, "You haven't really been networking." And I was like, "Because I'm here to learn today. Like, I can network later." He ended up becoming a mentor, and he told me, "Go ahead, activate your license. So my mind was to get into real estate, to use the money I make on sales, and then take all of that and clean up my financial situation and start investing in real estate." God said no. He said that's not what you're supposed to be doing. But it's a very fruitful field to go in. It's strange times because of the mortgage rates. And then
Yeah.
now, there was that lawsuit with NAR about now the buyers have to pay the realtor as well. So
Yeah.
a lot of things going with it. I still have my license, but I kind of
Okay.
put that down
How long
because
does the license, like, do you have to renew it eventually, or how does that work with real estate?
you pay like I pay monthly. Like I'm listed with Keller Williams, so I pay like a monthly. Oh, excuse me, this train. Should I? This
No, you're
blue light.
good. You're good.
Okay. Yes, I pay monthly to keep it active and listed with Keller Williams. But
Okay.
I went. I feel like the route I took. I joined a team, and that team didn't really help me out a lot. Like it just kind of
Okay.
dampened my mood about real estate. But you
Yeah.
do pay like a yearly fee to keep your
License
MLS
active.
active, yeah, and things of that
Okay.
nature.
Okay.
But I ended up putting a lot of money into it,
Mhm.
like trying to brand myself, trying to, there's a lot of driving, there's a lot of things you pay for upfront. So
Yeah.
I definitely think it's a great field to go into. I would
Hmm.
say have passive income, have some, or if you may, have a spouse who's taking care of the bills and things of
Yeah.
that nature, and you can go and freely pursue,
Yeah.
then it would be a good one to go into. But me just being a single woman on a
That's,
fixed income, I was
yeah.
blessed to have the VA income, but I live in Atlanta and I was in Buckhead at the time. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I ended
Yeah.
up putting myself further into a worse financial situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about in regards to today? Like, how are you doing now mentally in regards to maybe putting yourself out there again? Because again, for me, divorced 2017. I did put myself out there in 2019, and now it's 2024, and
Mm, yeah.
it's a scary world out there. And my children are now 9 and 12, and
Oh,
they don't want me to be in a relationship. They're being selfish, and
yeah.
I'm gonna give them that, but also I'm making room for whatever God have in store, but
All right. Yeah.
also understanding whoever I'm with would have to be with them too.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want that, relationship to clash. Like, okay, because
Hmm.
they're jealous. And
Yeah.
so I would know when I'm ready, and I believe God would let me know, okay, you're ready.
Yeah.
So let's do this, So I'm making room for that. I'm, like you mentioned, always on the go. I'm always on the go, always doing something, so many, wearing so many hats. But even
Yeah.
doing this podcast, or this live, I could tell you it's really for the production company, but
Hmm.
I have a nonprofit called Chosen Veteran Outreach, and I want to interview more vets. So even when I
Okay.
found out you're a veteran, I'm like, well, I'm going to intertwine this with a nonprofit. This is great.
Yeah. Let's mix it up. Yeah.
So we might be on different platforms
I love it.
once
Let's
this is
do it.
released. But
Yeah.
again, making time for them, but also making time for love, because I love love,
Yes.
and I want to know in regards to, I know I could be ready because I've been ready since I was
Hmm.
married when I was 25, divorced, I guess, at 31, or however that math works. But I'm not ready right now. And
Yeah.
because I'm so busy, I would take away from in regards to just being in a relationship.
Hmm.
However, I would make time. You
Yeah.
make time for what you want.
Oh,
So how are you
100%.
in regards to,
Excuse me.
having the experience of being married,
Hmm.
understanding you didn't get to know this person, understanding the steps that we should take, the red flags that we ignore? Because I definitely, for myself, ignored so many flags. I mean, even flags like they were waving where, okay, he doesn't have a relationship with his mom. Now, today,
Yeah.
he does, but he didn't then. And that was a big thing for me.
Hmm.
It was just a
Yeah.
lot that I
It
ignored.
is. Yeah.
I don't regret it because I have my two angels now. But
Hmm.
we sometimes say the vows, what God has joined together, let not man put asunder. I don't think God put us together.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it was us.
No,
We decided to do this.
because he
And
gave us free will,
exactly,
unfortunately. So
exactly. Unfortunately.
yeah, unfortunately,
And
because
we
I
made
was
the
messing it up.
choices. So it's like, I don't know if that was the best choice, but he
Mhm.
has a plan, because now I
He
have
do.
these two gems. So, we're going to wrap up soon, but tell me about in regards to your journey now. How's in regards to, do you go out for wine? Are you able to cope when you get stressed? PTSD from the military, things that you
Oh,
experience that in regards
oh
to, you
yeah,
mentioned Brandon, how did you heal from that? And how could we encourage women? Because this is not the end of us connecting, but even for when you have
yeah.
your podcast, we want to be able to even like we said, heal the world one woman at a time, or even men, because men
Yeah,
don't express themselves. They have podcasts now,
no,
thankfully, but they don't
yeah,
share as we do
no,
openly, you know? So tell us a
yeah.
little, and what would you encourage women? My room
So
is getting
I
dark, so
Oh
excuse the
yeah,
light.
yeah. So I definitely I'm experiencing a major shift. And
Mm,
in the terms of dating, like within the 3 years that I've been divorced, I've been, which are more stories for another time, I've been and I'm super transparent and never ashamed of anything. I have caught in my first STD, chlamydia, from someone I trusted. And like I
right.
went back to someone from my past thinking it was a good, leave them in the past. Half the time they have
They're
not
exit, yeah,
changed.
for a reason. Yeah.
Another one from my past publicly humiliated me. I'm from a small town. He ended up calling me broke on social media, just embarrassed me.
Mhm.
I got beat up by a guy that I barely knew. He was actually a celebrity's friend. I met Trey Songz, and it was one of his friends. And
Okay.
I was being, the girls that I work with at the bar were kind of teaching me. They were like, "You're so pretty. You should be able to get the money from the guy." So I did
Mm,
that. I told one guy at one point, like, "Hey, I just want to be, sleeping buddies. Like, let's just sleep together."
right.
He was coming off a divorce. I was too. We messed around for a good amount of time, and then I decided to step away. He came back recently, a year later, back in November, and
Mhm.
I was excited because I'm like, he finally likes me, and
Yeah.
no, it was the same thing.
Yeah. Cycle. That cycle.
Yeah, he literally told me, because of the way we met, I don't think I could ever think of you in another light. I had to
Mm,
make him tell me that, because I'm
right.
like you, I'm gonna verbalize, broke my heart because I
Yeah.
really was hopeful. And then a couple days later, text me like, "Hey, you want to come over?" And I told him, lose my number. I
Yeah.
started to choose me
Yeah.
100% of the
As
way.
hard as it is.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's, I don't even want to say it gets lonely. It gets a little boring sometimes, but I've just,
Mhm.
throughout everything that I've been through financially, that I've been through on the dating scene, I recently stopped smoking marijuana because I traded one vice for another. So I stopped the
Okay.
alcohol. I'll never touch another alcohol. If I ever go back to anything, it probably will be marijuana, to be honest, because I don't
Okay.
want to go back down that. But I've
Yeah.
even put that down lately because I feel like it's kind of like, I never tried shrooms, but I heard about, like, and I'm not saying or advocating for any drugs, but I heard that it's
Mhm.
like if you take a shroom when you're happy, you'll be happy. And if you
Mm.
take it when you're down, you're down. That's how marijuana was for me.
Interesting.
And it would
Okay.
put me
I've never,
into,
so good to
yeah,
know.
it would put me into such a, I would be in the bed all day. I want to be productive. Like,
Okay.
a lot of people say it's not a drug. It has the same effects as a drug.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I recently even put that down, and I have never been happier. Like,
Right.
I choose happiness every day that I wake up. I'm like,
Beautiful.
I switch my perspective. Like, I
Mhm.
don't, I'm human. I don't wake up every day motivated. I lean on my
Right.
discipline 100% of the way, because
Mhm.
you're not always going to be motivated. So I tell myself,
Yeah.
if I don't do what I need to today, I won't get to where I'm trying to go.
Of course.
Um, and I just kind of, like I said, I got, the alcohol's gone, the marijuana is gone. When I tell you, I have experienced a major shift financially. I invested on myself to get my credit fixed, and I just got approved for a nice car loan. I got my first
Sweet.
credit card. It's $25,000
Congratulations.
limit, and a beautiful man has walked into my life,
Beautiful.
and it's so different for me because, like I said, my abandonment and my attachment issues typically, and then just me being in tune with my sexuality, to be honest, I typically would sleep with a man within the first few meets if I like him. And in my head, I was like, oh, I like him. So I do what I
Yeah.
want. But I started reading more books. I read this book called Why Men Love Bitches. But it's a
Okay.
very eye-opening book to not have a mother who yeah, it's a crazy title, but I didn't have my
Yeah.
mom raising me. So I never got
Right.
taught how to be a lady and how to carry myself, and how
Yes.
to, I used to say I don't want to play games with these men, but in reality, men love the competition of it. They love to
Mhm.
know that you're a woman that can't nobody access, and that they have to, you teach them how to treat you. And
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but
That's
I've completely changed, and everything has changed for me. And I've
I
met
love
an
that for you.
amazing guy, and I'm very
So
thankful.
there's hope for
Yeah.
me, huh?
And he's,
There's hope eventually.
yes, I feel so, like, we went on our first date last weekend, and I've never felt so safe with a man. Like, brain
Beautiful.
gone. Like, I was just,
Yeah.
it was amazing. and he was so respectful. He paid for everything, not saying that's everything because there's a whole narrative going on with that, but I
I
didn't
know.
have to worry about a thing. And he texts me like 3 times a day, like, did you eat? Are you happy? Can I do
Checking
anything?
in.
Like, amazing. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, for me, this is all for me. But it's because even when I was going through everything I was going through, I stayed faithful. I thank God
Yeah.
every day. Those
Yeah.
lessons hurt me to the core, but I was
Yeah.
like, I trust you. And I gave up my control. I'm a big control freak. And I was
Okay.
like, your will, I'm going to do it. Every
Yeah.
day I'm going to get up and I'm
I
going to
love
keep moving.
that.
I'm going to keep
Oh, you need to
going.
read my book, Charity. My
Yes.
book is it's a book of affirmations from A to Z.
Yes.
And in that book, I shared stories of just different women, things that they gone through. Some are
Hmm.
made up, but then some is like actual stories. The names of the people that I used was people, women that I knew from elementary school, middle school,
Hmm. Yeah.
and I reference a scripture at the end of each affirmation. And I really think that's going to help you because even when you say you choose to wake up happy,
Hmm.
and sometimes we go through these different situations, but if we affirm, like, I am worthy, I am
Hmm.
enough, and I'm still
Yes.
learning, and sometimes I get emotional over it because I
Yeah.
speak it, I believe it, but then I'm like, is it really going to happen? So,
Yeah.
you give me hope, and
Yeah.
I'm expecting great things. And,
Yeah. And it's
again, you went
coming.
through those things, it's coming. And,
Yeah.
again, I tell God I'm ready, but am I really ready? Yesterday, I wrote in my journal,
Yeah.
I'm like, I love India Ari, and the other day I was singing her song "I'm Ready for Love," and then I stopped singing because I'm like, okay, God's gonna hear me singing that, but I don't think I'm ready. But
Yeah.
again, I will
And
know when the time it is
it's so
right. It's in our
powerful.
head. It's in our head.
Yeah, I had to teach myself that every time I have one negative thought, I combat it now in my head. I never
Yeah,
speak it for sure because there's power
yeah.
in
It
words.
starts
I
in our
never write
mind.
it, but
Yeah,
as soon as I think it, it's like a game. Someone said it's like sorting laundry. Like
yeah.
you put one dark with the lights, and you mess
Right.
up the whole load. So
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
my
but
goodness.
you have beautiful things coming. You have an amazing spirit. So it's
Thank
only due
you.
time, and I feel like just like I said, I completely shifted to focusing on me, being a better woman, making
Right.
better decisions. I do give
Yeah.
myself grace because unfortunately we're human,
Yes,
but
yes. Yeah, giving
you
ourselves
know,
grace. And
yeah,
you're encouraging me, so I'm receiving it because sometimes
yes,
I'm the one encouraging. So it's always good to be
yeah,
encouraged. And sometimes I'm in the mirror encouraging myself. This morning I was like, damn, it
mhm,
feels good to be me.
yeah, yeah,
And I love that there's a song that like that. And it's just encouraging to be encouraged.
yes.
And to the woman out here, hearing Charity's story, this is not the end, it's the beginning of getting to know who Charity is and how she's overcome throughout the years. So I'll let you tell the audience one last encouragement and then I'll close us off.
Oh man, I think I'm just gonna leave it with focus on yourself. When things are going crazy around you. And I actually heard this from someone else, and I wish I can give them credit, but it was kind of like a scrolling moment. It When you're having a hard moment and you're faced with your problems, write it down and put it into two categories: what I can control and what I cannot. And focus on what you can control, and everything else give it to your higher power. And choose yourself. You're beautiful. No attachments to anything. Live life, be happy, laugh, love. It's amazing. You can change your life any moment.
Thank you so much, Charity. And if anyone wants to follow you and get to know you, especially when you start your podcast, which I'm going to connect you with a couple of people,
Cool.
how can we find you on social media?
So on Instagram, it's at Charity Invests. And it was initially for investing, but it's because I invest in everything I do. So just Charity Invests.
I love
And
it.
I don't really have anything else except Facebook. So if you are on Facebook, it's Charity King. If you can't add me, send me a message and I'll add you as a friend.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank
Awesome.
you so
Charity, thank
much.
you so much for just spending time with me this hour. And I'm wishing you all the best. We'll definitely stay in touch. And guys,
Yes.
we are going to eventually do a live studio
Oh,
interview,
yeah.
and I'll have a couple of women on the couch. I just see this couch
Yeah.
happening, a green
Oh,
couch,
yeah.
prosperity. Just see
Yeah.
it happening. So
Yeah.
we would be in touch again. Thank you so
Thank
much
you for your
and for sharing
time.
your story. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're in a good place. You're in a
Yes.
happy
Thank
place.
you so much. Y'all look
Thank
out for a
you.
wedding.
There we go. Well, this was a beautiful episode. I'm sorry, my room is getting dark, so now you see like I look very cocoa. My melanin is kind of glowing. But anyway, I just want to thank Charity for joining me tonight on this. I would call it a special episode, and I'll put her Instagram page at the bottom of the video. We would post this on YouTube, on Instagram, and on Facebook. Again, this is not the end of Charity and the other women that we've interviewed over the past couple of months. I definitely want to just bring everybody together. I know some of them live other places throughout the US, but I want to do a whole hashtag her story event. So stay tuned for that. And for women, I want you to continue, including myself, be bold, be brave, be beautiful. You are enough. And I'll also post a link to my book so you can purchase my book of affirmations from A to Z. Thank you so much. Happy spring. I believe we are officially in the season of spring. But again, I want to thank you for just spending some time with us as we continue on our journey with hashtag her story, women sharing their untold stories. And we are doing a special feature with veterans. So if you are a veteran, woman veteran, female veteran out there that want to share your story, I know sometimes it's hard to share our experiences in the military, but if you're willing to do so, I am a very cool person. So it's a cool space, safe space where you can share your story. So again, I'll have the contact information below, hashtags, and again, thank you. Have a beautiful Wednesday evening. It is Wednesday, but again, whatever time of day you're watching this, have a beautiful day. Be bold, be brave, be beautiful. Bye-bye.